Chapter 17 of The Rejuvenation of Aunt Mary by Anne Warner. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Chapter 17 Aunt Mary's Night About Town. The next day came up out of the ocean, fair and warm, and when it drew toward later afternoon, no more propitious night for setting forth ever happened. It was undeniably a night to be remembered, and Aunt Mary's entertainers drew in deep breaths as they girded themselves for the conflict. They certainly intended to do themselves proud, and on top of all the lesser times of her life to pile the one preeminent which should rest preeminent forever. Aunt Mary had been gay in the first part of the week, gayer and gayer as the week progressed, but that final crowning night was indubitably the gayest of all. If you doubt this, read on, and be convinced. They began with Burnett's dinner in the private room. No matter where the private room was, for it really wasn't a private room at all. It was a suite of rooms borrowed and arranged especially for that one occasion. They gathered there at 8 o'clock and began with oysters served on a large brass tray in a half-dim Turkish room where incense sticks burned about and queer daggers held up the curtains. The oysters were served on their arrival, and the megaphones stood like extinguishers over each, with the name cards tied to the small end. The effect was really unique. Aunt Mary had one too, and they were all rejoiced at her delight in the scheme, and a few seconds after they were doubly rejoiced over its success, for no one had to speak loud, the megaphones did it all, producing a lovely clamor which deafened all those who could hear, and caused Aunt Mary to feel that she heard with the rest. Amidst the cheerful din they exchanged such very wild remarks as oysters always inspire, and each and all were mutually content at the effect thereof. Then they finished, and Burnett rose at once, flung back the portieres, and led them in upon their soup, which stood smoking on a large card table in the next room. There were boutonnieres with the soup, and violets for Aunt Mary, and again they used the megaphones, and again the conversation partook of the customary conversation which soup produces. The soup finished, Burnett jumped up again and threw back other portieres, and they all moved out into a dining room, with its table spread with a substantial dinner. This time it was the real thing, candelabra, ice pails, etc. Aunt Mary had a parrot in a gilt tower, and all the men had white mice in houses shaped like hat boxes. Mitchell's seat was flanked with wine coolers, and Burnett's too. There was all that they could desire to eat and drink, and more. The feast began, and it was grand and glorious.
"I'll tell you what,"
said Aunt Mary, in the midst of the revel,
"if this isn't what it means in papers when it speaks of high livin', I don't blame 'em for bein' willin' to die of it young. 1 week like this is worth 10 years with Lucinda. 20, a whole life."
"Say, Jack," said Burnett in an undertone, "let's have Lucinda come to town next and see the effect on her." "Miss Watkins," said Clover through his megaphone, "as a mark of my affection, I beg to offer you my white mouse. Do you accept?"
"Oh, I don't want to go back to the house yet," said Aunt Mary, much disturbed. "It's too soon."
"We won't go home till morning," said Burnett. "Not by a long shot. Here, Mitchell, give us a speech. Home! We don't want to drink to it, but we do want to drink to it here." "Home!" said Mitchell, rising with his glass in his hand. "Home! Here's to home, and I'll drink to it in anything but a cab. Home, Aunt Mary and gentlemen, is the place where one may go when every other place is closed. As long as any other place is open, however, I do not recommend going home. The contrast is always sharp and bitter and to be avoided until unavoidable circumstances, over which we possess but little control, force us to give our address to the man who drives, and let him drive us to the last place on the map. And so I drink to that last place, home. And here's to it, not now, but a good deal later, and not then unless what must be has got to result." Mitchell paused, and they all drank. "Me next now," exclaimed Burnett, jumping to his feet. "I'm going to make a speech at my own dinner, and as a good speech is best made offhand, I've picked out an offhand subject and arise to give you Lucinda. Having never met her, I feel able to say nothing good about her, and I call the company present to witness that I shall say nothing bad either. I gather from what I have had a straight chance of picking up, that Lucinda is all that she should be, and nothing frisqué. The latter quality is too bad, and it's not my fault. Therefore I say again, Lucinda, and here's to her very good health. May she never regret that fate has given her no chance to have anything to regret." Aunt Mary applauded this speech heartily, even if she hadn't quite caught the whole of it, and had no idea of whom it was about.
"Who's goin' to speak now?" she asked anxiously.
"I am," said Clover modestly. "I rise to propose the health of our honored guest, Miss Watkins. We all know what kin she is to one of us, and we all weep that she didn't do as well by the rest of us. Aunt Mary! Glasses down!" "You can't drink this, you know, Aunt Mary," said Jack. "It's bad taste to drink to yourself."
"I don't want to drink," said Aunt Mary, beaming. "I like to watch you."
"Here's to Aunt Mary's liking to watch us!" cried Clover. "No," said Burnett, rising. "Don't. It's time to go and eat the salad now."
"We'd ought to have the automobile for this party," said Aunt Mary, and every one applauded her idea as they rose and gathered up their belongings. It was a droll procession of men with mice and a lady with a parrot that got under way and moved in among the Japanese fans and swinging lanterns of the next room in the suite of Burnett's friend. 5 little individual tables were laid there, and on each table lay a Japanese creature of some sort, which, being opened somewhere, revealed salad within. "Well, I never did!" exclaimed the guest. "This dinner ought to be put in a book."
"We'll put it in ourselves first," said Mitchell. "I never believe in booking any attraction until it has been tried on a select few. Burnett having selected me for one of this few, I vote that we begin on the salad." They began forthwith. Aunt Mary suddenly stopped eating.
"Someone called," she said.
"It's the parrot," said Jack. "I heard him before." "What does he say?" said Mitchell. "Listen and you'll find out," said Jack. They all listened, and presently the parrot said solemnly,
"Now see what you've done,"
and relapsed into silence.
"What does he mean?"
Aunt Mary asked. "He's referring to his own affairs," said Burnett. "Come on, let's get coffee now." They all adjourned to a tiny room lined with posters and decorated with pipe racks, and there had ice cream in the form of bulls and bears, and coffee of the strongest variety, and then cordials and cigarettes. "Now, where shall we go to first?" asked Burnett when all were well lit up. No one would have guessed that he had ever felt used up in all his life before. "To a roof garden," said Mitchell. "We'll go to a roof garden first, and then we'll go to more roof gardens, and after that, if the spirit moves, we'll go to yet a few roof gardens in addition. We'll show our dear aunt what wonders can be done with roofs, and tomorrow she'll wonder what was done with her." "That's the bill," said Clover. "And let's go now. I can see from the general manner of my mouse that he's dying to get out and make his way in the wide world." "Mine the same," said Mitchell. "By George, it worries me to see such restless, feverish manners in what I had supposed would be a quiet domestic companion. It presages a distracted existence. But come on." They all rose.
"Where we going now?"
asked Aunt Mary. "To a roof garden," said Jack. "And we're going to take the whole menagerie, Aunt Mary. We're going to get put in the papers. That's the great stunt, to get put in the papers." "But we'll leave the megaphones," said Mitchell. "I won't go about with a mouse and a megaphone. People might think I looked silly. People are so queer." "Put the mouse in the megaphone," suggested Burnett. "That's the way my mother taught me to pack when I was a kid. You put your toothbrush in a shoe and the shoe in a sleeve, and then turn the sleeve inside out. Oh, I tell you, what is home without a mother? Put the mouse in the megaphone and stop up both ends. What are your hands in your mouth for?" "Yes," said Mitchell. "I think I see myself so handling a megaphone that the mouse doesn't run out either end or into my mouth. My mouth is a good mouth, and it served me well, and I won't turn it over to a mouse at this late day." "Let's keep the mice in their cages," said Clover, and as he spoke he dropped his.
"Now see what you've done," said the parrot.
"I didn't hurt it," said Clover. "Come on now." "Yes, come on," said Burnett. "It's long after 10 o'clock. You want to remember that even roof gardens are not eternally on tap." "Well, I'm trying to hurry all I can," said Mitchell. "I'm the picture of patience scurrying for dear life, only unable to lay hands on her gloves."
"I don't catch what's the trouble," said Aunt Mary to Jack.
"Nothing's the trouble," said Jack. "Everything's fine and dandy. We're going out now. Time of your life, Aunt Mary, time of your life." They telephoned for a carriage and all got in. Then Clover slammed the door.
"Now see what you've done,"
said the parrot. "Is he going to keep saying that?" Burnett asked. "I don't know," said Jack. "It comes in pretty pat, don't it?" "Makes me think of my mother," said Clover. "I wish it wouldn't."
"I don't catch who's saying what,"
said Aunt Mary. "Nobody's saying anything, Miss Watkins," roared Mitchell. "We are all talking airy nothings just to pass the time o' day." The carriage stopped 300 feet below the level of a roof garden. "We get out here," said Burnett. They all got up and went up in an elevator.
"Seems to be a good many going to the same place,"
said Aunt Mary. "Yes," said Mitchell, "a good many people generally go to places that are great places for a good many people to go to." "You ought not to end with a preposition," said Clover.
"There, I left my ear trumpet in the carriage," said Aunt Mary.
There was a pause of consternation. No one spoke except the parrot. "We know what she's done without your telling us," said Clover, addressing the bird. "The question is, what to do next?" Jack went back downstairs and found the carriage waiting in hopes of picking up another load. He lost no time in personally picking up the ear trumpet and returning to his friends. Then they all proceeded above and bought a table and turned their chairs to the stage, where the attraction just at that moment was a quartet of pretty girls. "I tell you what we'll do," said Burnett the instant the girls began to sing. "Let's each tie a card to a mouse and present them to the girls." The suggestion found favor and was followed out to the letter. But when the girls were through, and the Chinaman who followed them on the program was also over, the pleasures of life in that spot palled upon the party. "Oh, come," said Burnett, "let's go somewhere else. Let's go out in the air." His suggestion found favor, and they sallied forth and visited another roof garden, a theater where they saw the last quarter of the fourth act, a place where Aunt Mary was given a gondola ride, and a place where she was given something in the shape of light refreshments. Then, becoming thirsty, they ordered a few white horses and red horses and the necks of yet other horses, but Aunt Mary declined the horses of all colors, and Mitchell upheld her. "That's right," he said. "I'm a great believer in knowing when you've had enough, and I'm sure you've all had so much too much that I know that I must have had enough, and that she's better off with none at all." "I reckon you're right," said Clover. "I've had enough, surely. I can't see over my pile of little saucers, and when I can't see over my pile of little saucers I'm always positive that I've had enough." Jack laughed, and then ceased laughing and drew down the corners of his mouth. "Why do people sit in chairs?" Clover asked just then. "Why don't everyone sit on the floor? You never feel as if you might slip off the floor." "Ah," said Mitchell, "if we were not always trying to rise above nature, we should all be sitting where nature intended, when we weren't swinging by our tails and picking coconuts." "Come on, and let's go somewhere else," said Burnett. "Every time I look at somebody, it's someone else, and that makes me nervous."
"Now see what you've done," said the parrot.
"Did you know his long suit when you bought him?" Clover asked Burnett. "No," said Burnett. "They told me he didn't use slang, and that was all." It was well along in the evening, or night, and a brisk discussion arose as to where to go next. "I'll tell you," said Clover. "We'll take a ride. Let me see, what time is it? 12:30, just the time for a drive. We'll take 3 cabs and sally forth and drive up and down and back and forth in the cool night air." "And Jews' harps," cried Burnett. "Oh, I say, there's a bully idea. We'll go to a drug store and buy some Jews' harps and play on them as we drive along. We'll each sing our own tune, and the effect will be so novel. Let's do it." "Jews' harps," said Clover thoughtfully. "Jews' harps for 3 cabs. That'll make, let me see, that'll make—" He hesitated. "Oh, the driver will make the change," said Burnett impatiently. "Come on. If we're going to have the cabs and Jew harps, it's time to get out and take the stump in the good cause."
"Where's my ear trumpet?" said Aunt Mary blankly. "It's been left somewhere."
"No, it hasn't," said Mitchell. "It's here. I'm holding it for you. It's much easier holding it than picking it up. It seems so slippery tonight." "I'm not going out to get the cabs," said Clover. "I thought of the idea, and someone else must work it out. I'm opposed to working after time, and I call time at midnight." Mitchell rose with a depressed air. "I'll go," he said. "I feel the need of a walk. When I feel the need of anything, I always take it, and I've needed and taken so freely tonight that I need to take a walk to—" "I don't think it funny to talk that way," said Burnett a little heatedly. "If you want to get the cabs, why, get the cabs. I'm going to get them too, and I reckon we can get them combined just as easily as alone." "I will go with you," said his friend solemnly. "I will accompany you, because I feel the need—" He stopped and turned his hat over and over. "I know there's a hole to put my head into," he declared, "but I can't just put my my head, into it." "Do you expect to find a brass hand pointing to it?" said Burnett testily. "Come on." 3 cabs and 5, or was it 6, Jews' harps," continued Mitchell dreamily. "It must have been 6, 5 for we 5, and 1 for Lord Chesterfield. But where is Lord Chesterfield?" he asked suddenly, with a disturbed glance around. "I hope he hasn't deserted and gone home." Come on," said Burnett. There won't be a sober cab left if we don't hurry while everything is still able to stand up." This reasoning seemed to alarm Mitchell, and he went out with him at once. "My head feels awfully," said Clover to Jack. "It sort of grinds and grates. Does yours?" Jack stared straight ahead and made no reply. "I'm goin' home no more to roam," said Aunt Mary slowly and sadly. "I'm goin' home no more to roam, no more to sin and sorrow. I'm goin' home no more to roam. I'm goin' home to-morrow. Oh, hum." She heaved a heavy sigh. "Now see what you've done," said the parrot with emphasis. "Never mind," said Clover bitterly. "Better people than you have gone home before now. I used to do it myself before I was old enough to know worse. Will you excuse me if I say, damn this buzzing in my head?" "I know how you feel," said Aunt Mary sympathetically. "Don't you want me to ring for the porter and have him make up your berth right away?" Clover didn't seem to hear. His eyes were roving moodily about the room. They looked almost as faded as his mustache. "Seems to me they're gone a long time," said Jack presently, twisting a little in his seat. "It never takes me so long to get a cab. I hold up my hand, the man stops, and I get in. What's the matter, Aunt Mary?" He asked the question in sudden alarm at seeing Aunt Mary bury her face hastily in her handkerchief. "What's the matter?" he repeated loudly. "Don't mind me," said Aunt Mary, sobbing. "It's just that I happened to think of Lucinda, and somehow I don't seem to have no strength to bear it." "Split the handkerchief between us," said Clover. "I want to cry too, and there's no time like the present for doing what you want to do." "Rot!" said Jack. "Look here." He was interrupted by the return of the embassy, Mitchell bearing the Jews' harps. "What's the matter?" Burnett asked. "Nothing," said Clover. "We were so worried over you, that's all." Burnett called for the bill and found that he had run out of cash. "Or maybe I've had my pocket picked," he suggested. "I'm beginning to be in just the mood in which I always get my pocket picked." Jack produced a roll of bills and settled for the refreshments. Then they all started downstairs as Aunt Mary wouldn't risk an elevator going down.
"It's all right comin' up," she said, "but if it broke when you were going down, where'd you be?"
"In the elevator," said Clover. "I'd never jump, I know that."
"Oh, I've left my ear trumpet," said Aunt Mary.
"Let's draw lots to see who goes back," Burnett suggested. They drew, and the lot fell to Clover. "I'm not going back," he said coldly. "I haven't got the energy. Let her apply the megaphone." Jack went back. Then they all got into the street and into the cabs. Aunt Mary and Jack went first, Mitchell and Burnett second, and Clover brought up the rear alone. They set off, and it must be admitted that the effect of the three cabs going single file one after another, with their 5 occupants giving forth a most imperfect version of his or her favorite tune, was at once novel and awe-inspiring. But like all sweet things upon this earth, the concert was not of long endurance. It was only a few minutes before the duos ceased utterly to duo, and the soloist in the rear fell sound asleep. For several blocks there was a mournful and telltale lack of harmony upon the air, and then the 3 young men seemed to have exhausted their mouths, and all lapsed into a more or less conscious state of quietude. Only Aunt Mary was indefatigable. Like Cleopatra, age seemed to have no power to stale her infinite variety, and leaning back in her own corner, she continued to placidly and peacefully intone, with disregard for time and tune which never ruffled a wrinkle. She hadn't played on a Jew's harp in 60 years, and being deaf, she was pleasantly astonished at how well she still did it. Jack leaned in his corner with folded arms. He was deeply conscious of wishing that it was the next day, any other day, for the week had been a wearing one, and he could not but be mortally glad that it was so nearly over. The task of fitting the plan of Aunt Mary's revelries to the measure of her personal capacity had been a very hard one, and his soul panted for relief therefrom. It is one thing to undertake a task, and another thing to persevere to its successful completion. Aunt Mary's nephew was tired, very tired. A little later he felt a weight against him. He looked. It was Aunt Mary's head. She was oblivious there on his bosom. He heard a voice. It was the parrot. "Now see what you've done," it said in sepulchral tones. They reached the house, bore the honored guest within, and delivered her to Janice. "You can have that parrot," Jack called back to the cabman. "He's guaranteed against slang." The cabman drove away. Janice received them with a look which might have been construed in many ways, but they were all far past construing, and the look fell to the ground unheeded. And again Aunt Mary was tucked carefully up to dream herself rested once more. End of chapter 17.